Intellectual Property 332, which is the latest release of the popular intellectual property real estate component for Joomla. For over 6 years, intellectual property has been near the top of the Joomla Extensions Directory in overall ratings and at the top of the real estate section of the Joomla Extensions Directory. To begin with, this site is out-of-the-box intellectual property. Everything that you see is included with the price. We don't upcharge, we don't charge you extra for special modules or advanced functionality. It's all what you see is what you get. And the template used right here is the default Joomla Protostar template. It's not meant to look pretty at the moment. This is extremely basic. You can apply any professional Joomla template that you choose to make your site look exactly how you like, and you can use the included intellectual property cascading style sheets to tweak the colors and layouts to be exactly how you like them. So on the index page of my site, I've added our slideshow module. This module is pretty straightforward, but it has a lot of options in the back end that would allow me to change exactly what images I'm showing and what listings I'm showing based on the landing page. Because this is an index page, I've chosen to just grab a random selection of listings from my database. I could just as easily have made it choose only listings within a certain area, within a certain price range, within a certain company's listings, or within a category, so that I could create custom slideshow modules for whatever landing page I choose to put them on. Below here is a new feature in 332. This is a new module called the IP Z-Search module, and it's called Z-Search because it looks a little bit like Zillow's default search. This lets you create sort of a more Google style entry point into your search results. People can come to your page, they'll see this search right front and center, and they'll know what to do. They can get right to searching. Over here we have a standard Joomla menu. All properties is the most obvious one. It basically just shows you all the properties in the system. But new for 332 is this pretext. This allows you to add a plug of text before your property results on just about any category or all properties page. This means that, for example, if I had used my menu item options to say all properties but only that are waterfront and in a certain town, I could have said anything I'd like to about how great the waterfront in this town is. That's keyword-rich search text. It looks great for the search engines, and it also lets your users know what they're doing and what landing page they've arrived on. It lets you put that high up on the page and create a real good search engine friendly text block that'll describe the results that they're going to see down below. This is a standard Google map that you can choose to show or hide on any of these category or all properties pages. And it's pulling in the properties below, showing icons based on what property we're looking at. So for example, if I want to click on this one, it pops down to that result. Notice that this is a fairly traditional table view. I'll explain more about that in a little bit. But the last thing to notice is that in Intellectual Property 332 we've added color-coded map icons. So rather than just having a single map icon, depending on what category the property belongs to, it'll have a different color icon. So this lets you see the different variety of properties that you have in your system. Now we're going to look at a single category view, the residential category, and it's pulling the residential and its subcategories. And you notice here that it's now a grid view. This is added in 332. We've added the option to view your results as a grid. In the menu item options, you can choose how many columns you want to show and how many total results you want to show, which will allow you to really customize this look to make it look the way you want it to look. The single property view lets you create a landing page that points to one property. This is pretty cool if you're doing any internet marketing or any print marketing, because Joomla will let you create SEF URLs that are pretty easy to remember or to type in, and you could create a really nice landing page for a single property that you're trying to promote. Intellectual property comes with about 40 different modules and plugins as part of the product. This lets you really customize how you want things to look. For example, this open currency plugin is new in Intellectual Property 332, and it uses the Open Exchange Rate API to pull in a huge variety of different currencies that we can convert the dollar into. And this would be a good time to point out that intellectual property is totally internationalizable. As part of the product, we supply multiple language files in many common languages, and you can easily create your own. You can also change the currency format and symbol. You can change the decimal format, and you can change measurement units or right to left or left to right text. That's all totally supported by intellectual property. Street View is a plugin, and that's kind of neat because it's smart enough to go out and check if Google has Street View data for a given listing, and if it doesn't, it'll automatically hide this tab so you don't have an empty tab. The map is automatically geocoded by Google when you input your listing. It'll go and search for the geocode, and this is actually extremely useful and extremely functional. Almost everywhere in the world, Google has pretty accurate geocode data for at this point in time. Down below, we can see another example of a plugin. This is a simple gallery plugin, but as I said, we include dozens of plugins and modules that allow you to customize it. An example would be the Walk Score plugin. You can enable a Walk Score plugin that will show you nearby stores, libraries, hospitals, coffee shops, things like that. We've got Google Places plugins. We've got education.com plugins that'll show you nearby schools, and they're extremely simple to set up and configure. You just go to your plugin manager, do the education.com plugin. If we refresh this page, now we can see nearby schools. It's an extremely powerful, extremely simple way for you to tailor the site to your own customers. You'll notice that down here we have agent information. This links to the agent's property page, which will show all this agent's properties. This would link to his company page, which will show all of the company's properties as well as the company contact information. If he supplied a Skype ID in his agent profile, it's automatically linked here to Skype, so I could pop open my Skype and start calling the agent. I could contact him by clicking this. It'll open a form that I can send him an email. And this is a plugin that provides a QR code that my smartphone could get his contact card directly into my phone contacts library. By default, we show request a showing and send to a friend tabs, but you can choose to use or hide these, and you can also apply the Google reCAPTCHA that's part of Joomla's core now to filter out spam. This lets people send to their friends, their wives, their bankers, whoever they need to send a listing to. And request and showing will go directly to the agent and will allow the user to communicate directly with the agent asking if they can come view the property. Now you'll notice up here that there's an edit button. Because I'm logged in as a super user, I have the ability to edit any property that I like. Normally, if I was a standard user, I would not see this, but if I was logged in as an agent, I would be able to edit this only if it was my own property or belonged to my company. And these are all settings that you can choose in the intellectual property administrator. You can choose to restrict agents to only their own listings, or you could allow them to edit any of their company listings. There's a mortgage calculator built in, and I can also save these properties to my favorites with notes. So if I view my favorites here, there it is. That's the favorite that I just selected. I can also save searches. We'll get to searches in a moment here. But you should know that favorites and searches, you can also configure intellectual property to automatically email the user when a favorite property has been updated or when a saved search returns new results. They can automatically get an email saying, check out your property, it's been modified, and then they can go and see, oh, the price was reduced or whatever has happened. The advanced search is one of the features that a lot of companies charge extra for. This is a core part of our product and always has been, and we don't charge any extra for this. This is an advanced search that I've used the menu item presets to restrict to only category A and category A's subcategories. So some of these properties belong to multiple categories or subcategories. That's why you're not just seeing the orange icon on the map. You can use these sliders to set the price range. So I only want properties between 75,000 and 160,000. Or 268,000. So if we click this open, we'll see that the price is 260,000. That's why it wasn't showing up when I restricted it less. You've also got the ability to restrict by beds and baths, by square footage, by category, by location, by sale type, or by a specific amenity. You'll see that the listings show up down here below, and if I click on one of those, it'll pop open the preview. Now in Intellectual Property 3.3, we've added a whole new advanced search type. That's Advanced Search 2. And you'll see that there's no results down below and there's no sliders. Instead, we've got this drawer that pops out, and you'll notice that map clustering is built in. So I can drill down on that and find out exactly what I want to look at. And it also updates itself based on map zooms and moves. So I can just sort of move around. I can also use my map tools to restrict to only certain areas. When I click those open, it's the same deal. And I can click into the property and take a look at it. The user menu will take me to my favorites and saved searches. And the manage view here is pretty powerful. This is what allows you to provide your agents with an interface for editing and maintaining their properties from the front end of Joomla. A lot of us don't want inexperienced people messing about in the back end of Joomla because there's potential for them to break something. This way you can keep all your agents restricted only to front-end access to intellectual property, and they can do whatever they need to do, including publishing, unpublishing, featuring, unfeaturing, or editing not only their listings but their profile. If they are a super user or if they're a super agent, they can also access their company profile and change that. But most agents, typically you don't want them to be able to edit their company profile, just their agent profile. And you'll see that you've got all the tabs that allow you to configure this particular listing that we're editing here. This plugin here is a Craigslist plugin. This was new with Intellectual Property 3.3.2. It provides a quick HTML view of all the data in the property that I can just copy and paste into Craigslist ads, and that way I don't have to mess around with trying to learn HTML or formatting everything. It's already done for me. So here's the agent view, and because I'm a super agent, I can see all the agents, not just one company. If I was not a super admin right now and I was just a standard agent, I would typically only be able to see my own agent or maybe the agents within my company. That depends on how you configure it in the back end. And here's the companies. Again, I'd only be able to see my own company. And open houses. You can create open houses for any property in the system that you own if you're an agent, or if you're a super admin for any property regardless of who owns it. I can set a title for this, set the start date and time, add notes, and now that property has an open house set. So that's the management view. And that's pretty much it for what I wanted to show you on the front end at the moment. Now we're going to go to the back end and show you a little bit about what intellectual property looks like to the administration. So First of all, this is the basic intellectual property control panel. You can create categories and subcategories to your heart's content. There is no limit. I know some products limit you based on how much you pay them to a set number of categories. There's no limits in iProperty. You can add as many of everything as you like. Limitless categories and subcategories, limitless properties, limitless agents, companies, etc. Here's the property view, similar to what you saw on the front end there when we were looking at the manage view, but slightly different. Again, you see the Craigslist ad. We have a notes area where agents can leave notes for each other. Only agents can view these. These will never show up to the front end users, so this might be useful for things like lockbox locations, showing instructions, things like this. You can see how many times the property has been visited. You can feature it, unfeature it. This approval thing won't show up unless you're an administrator or a super agent. You can choose to use moderation in intellectual property, meaning that if a front-end agent submits a new property, it will not be published until an administrator approves it. I can set up keywords and descriptions on a per property basis, which is really cool if you want to do some in-depth SEO work. I can choose my amenities, set the property details, location options, and if, say, I'm in a new property development and Google doesn't know about it, didn't geocode it correctly, I can simply drag and drop it and move it to the correct location. I can also use a KML file if I like, and that'll do a property overlay. Sometimes this is useful if you're doing land sales. It'll show plats or boundary descriptions using KML. You can have multiple agents and multiple categories per property. You can have a short description as well as a long description. And I can copy and clone these listings very quickly, which is really handy if I'm doing situations like housing developments or apartments, because I don't want to have to put the same data over and over. I just clone a single listing, change a few specifics, and then I'm done. Agents, companies are pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. A company can have an unlimited number of agents. Agents can only belong to one company. We've added a description and a bio to companies now. And I could also upload a company image if I choose to do that. The intellectual property settings gives you a huge variety of ways to set up the product. You have a lot of options, and it takes a little bit of study and a little bit of trial and error to figure out all these options because there's just so many. But basically, we aim to be as flexible as possible to let you have as many options as you can possibly use. One nice little thing here, for example, is the defaults. If you are only working with one company typically, and you're normally only working in a single state and a single country, you can set these defaults so that you don't have to set them every time within your property listing. You add a new listing, those are automatically set for you. Categories, you can change the layouts and displays. Same with properties. You can choose to show email updates, send property notifications to admins when people save a property. You can choose to show or hide things like mortgage calculators and print views. The send a friend tab or the request a showing tab can be shown or hidden. You can change your accent color for featured properties. All these things are configured in the settings, so you don't have to mess around with HTML or CSS unless you like to. Once again, the agents have a huge number of options you can show or hide. Same with companies. The quick search tabs, you can choose from all these different options to show in the quick search tab, which is this here. So right now I'm only showing the keyword and the sale type, but by setting these things to yes or no, I can choose to show a whole bunch of different options. The advanced search views, a lot of show and hide options. You can set your default map latitude and longitude. You can set your baths high or low as presets, or you could do that as the menu option level. So I could say this is the general advanced search options, but I can also do them through the menu item. There's multiple galleries included with intellectual property. You can choose which one you like best. That'll show up in the property view. For instance, this is showing the default lightbox view, but I could just as easily change that to a Nevo slider, for instance, that'll automatically start scrolling through the listing images. New in Intellectual Property 332, we've added the ability to upload to Amazon S3. That gives you a quick and easy way to create external image hosting, which should make your site a little more responsive, and also takes some of the workload off of your server, because the images are being served by S3, which is Amazon's redundant cloud-based storage service. You can add as many sale types as you like, and you can set CSS banners that'll show up. For instance, if I want to, feature my sold properties, I can easily do that. Let's see if we have any sold ones in the system at the moment. It doesn't look like it. But if I were to go back to my properties here, this one is now sold. And there it is. It shows that it's sold, and it's been updated because I just saved it. So that's some ways that you can create sale types and display CSS banners on them. You can add a default disclaimer to your system saying these listings are the property of such and such MLS, comply with your legal. You can change the map provider from Google to Bing. If you like Bing Maps better, that's fine. And you can do backups and restores of data from the admin panel. This is not the same as doing Joomla backups. This only backs up your iProperty data. This is really handy for going from production to development to production, because I could just back up my data, copy the data file to my live site, and then use the restore tool to restore it. And then I'd be up and running. Intellectual Property also has a bulk import tool that allows you to import comma-separated values or XML files very quickly. This is a great way to populate recurring data into your database, or to get data from an external listing service into your iProperty site. Please note that this does not mean you can take any arbitrary CSV or XML file and import it. It has to be properly formatted, and that's why we provide these sample CSV and XML files so you can see how to format your data. This is covered in some depth in the property manual. You also have the ability to edit your CSS files directly from the admin. We try to keep the CSS as clean as possible and as minimal as possible, deferring to Joomla and to your template in almost all situations. But this allows you to apply tweaks as you need to. I think that's pretty much all we wanted to show you today with intellectual property. We hope that you'll stop by thethinkery.net or find us on extensions.joomla.org. Intellectual property is a full-featured open source real estate solution. We also offer MLS data import services, where we can import RETS data from your MLS into your iProperty site, or from other external data providers, including European services like Curo, RIA XML in Australia, and many, many others around the world. Contact us, find us at thethinkery.net if you're interested in learning more about data import services. And we hope you've learned something and enjoyed looking at Intellectual Property 332. Thanks for your time.